Welcome to Dobcroft. If you'd stood here 400 years ago, this would have been open moorland, covered in heather, grass, rushes, maybe a few cattle grazing. Perhaps there would have been a bit of scrubby woodland in places, while a bit to the north there would have been mossland, with maybe some peat diggings for the farmers to get local fuel. Around here too, there might have been patches of wetland, where no doubt great crested newts were to be found. It had been like this for centuries. It was known as Cottam Moor. Then maybe 250 years or so ago, the local farmers began enclosing the open moorland into separate fields. As you can see on this copy of the old tithe map of 1838, the year after Queen Victoria came to the throne. On the map, you can see Tag Lane and the canal, but there's no sign of Whitby Avenue, because that wasn't built until the 1960s. But what I want to talk to you about are these fields here with these ponds in them. These ponds are what are known as marl pits, dug out by the farmers to get at a lime layer that could be found a few metres down to spread on the fields and make the soil a bit less acid so they could grow crops. But from the commentary that goes with this map, we can also find out the names that the farmers gave to all these fields. Down there, beyond where Intact is now, there was a field called 7 acres where they were growing vetches, peas, beans, as a fodder crop. And a little to the north, behind where Holy Family Church is now, there was a field called Lower New Hay, where they were growing oats, again, probably for the livestock. But our two fields were just pasture, and they were called Nearer Dobcroft and Rough Dobcroft. Now, if we now mark in where our nature reserve is, you can see it takes up most of the field called Nearer Dobcroft. Holy Family's playing field takes up the rest, while Ingle Community Primary's field, together with Intact and the multi-use games area, were then called Rough Dobcroft. But what do the names mean? Well, a croft just means a small enclosed field, but Dob is probably the same word as daub, which you might know from wattle and daub. The heavy clay here was probably dug out by the locals for hundreds of years for building materials. And guess what? It was that same clay dug out from this field and its neighbours, which was used by the brickworks, which was established here after the canal was dug in the 1820s. And it was called Cottam Hall Brickworks. And of course, it's because of this clay that we now have the reserve. After the brickworks ceased operation, the land lay derelict for years before planning permission was granted for commercial and housing development. As part of that permission, this end of the site was set aside as a nature reserve and was taken over by Intact in 2015. And we gave it back its old name, Dobcroft, the field where heavy clay for building was once dug, but now a haven for the great crested newt and for the people of Ingle and beyond.